Good morning, everybody. How are we doing today? I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking. Today's project is one that I am really looking forward to. I've been really excited to get started on it. Today, we are going to be doing a wedding portrait painting commission. And since this is kind of like a very classic style of commission that I would normally get as an artist doing a painting, I thought it would be a good chance to kind of like show the process, chat a little bit about it, tell you what I like about doing commissions, what I don't like about doing commissions, and also just how I do a painting. The way that this one came about was kind of cool. It was like a friend of a friend of a friend kind of thing saw another painting that I did and was like, yo, I want one of those as a gift for these other people. And so I'm super excited to get to do it, and I think it's going to be really fun. So let's get started. The first thing that I normally like to do when I'm doing one of these like sort of bigger painting projects is I like to do a digital mock-up of kind of what I want the painting to look like. Here I started with a grayscale little thumbnail sketch, kind of getting an idea for the composition going. Working in grayscale really helps to kind of figure out if your lighting is working or not and getting an idea of the contrast that's going on in the piece. Then I moved here to do a sketch of the couple, kind of getting their likeness going in my art style. I put them in that thumbnail sketch that I'd done and adjusted the lighting accordingly. And then I added some color using my beautiful assistant here, Tito. What is it with cats and Apple pencils? I don't know. Mine just always go crazy. Don't worry, I pay her a good wage of crunchies. I wanted to try a new technique of getting my mock-up idea onto the canvas. So I took this light box here that I'd never used before, and I went back into that mock-up that I'd done and did sort of a simplified sketch just in line art, which I was then gonna print out and then use the light box to transfer onto the canvas. One thing I've been thinking a lot about with commissions is how when somebody hires me to do a work of art for them, there's two different roles that I could be serving in this. One is that I'm basically existing as an art machine to fulfill a very specific request. Like somebody has a very specific thing in mind that they're wanting to buy, and they're looking for me to kind of be the more technical expertise to kind of like fulfill that vision. And then on the other side is more what this one was, where I was making a lot more of those creative decisions and kind of doing more of that filling in the gaps. And I think most commissions exist somewhere in the middle. I mean, if you think about it, technically we could just make a grid in Photoshop and someone could tell me exactly what color to place in each one. It just depends on what different people want. Okay, did we get this set up? Oh, cool. This thing is so like thin. I don't know if you can see that, but I was convinced that there was a part missing because I did not think that a port could fit on that. Okay. Since our canvas is pretty big here, I had to print out the sketch in a few different pieces. So I'm going to tape them together and then tape them onto the canvas. Now, the biggest problem with art commissions and being an artist who gets paid to do commissions is money. And so I feel like a lot of the time, when people approach me, they kind of give me the idea first, and then they're just wanting me to kind of give them a quote of how much it costs. The thing is, if it's something where someone, like we were talking about earlier, has a really specific vision in mind, okay, then that's fine to just reach out to me because it's not necessarily specific to me. You might be shopping around different artists and kind of seeing how much things cost. That makes sense. But if it is that someone wants me to do something for them, in that situation, I usually I'll usually ask for people to lead a little bit more with the budget. I think we're really not like used to doing things this way because, normally if you're buying something, we're so used to scams and people trying to like squeeze extra money out of you and all these things. So I think it maybe feels really unnatural. And I think also sometimes people don't want to offend me by like lowballing or giving a number that's that's too low, or then if they give a number that's too high, maybe that's like way more than I would charge somebody else. The thing is that with art, I think it doesn't quite work that way. Pretty much anything that somebody commissions me to do, I probably would do it for free if I could, like especially something like this where it's sentimental. I'm so honored that I get to do it. Like I wish that I didn't have to charge them, and it feels so awkward to have to talk about pricing and money when it's something like that where I don't see it that I'm trying to like sell something or trying to profit or anything. I'm just like trying to figure out how much money I need to receive so that during the course of me working on this, I can live. That's how I see it. And at the same time, the person who is hiring me to do something is also just trying to live. Like they are also a person with not infinite money doing a job who's just trying to survive. And so another way that I kind of see it is like if me and the person asking me to make something have the same income and they're wanting me to make them something, and me making them the thing takes like, 2 or 3 days of my life, then I kind of need them to pay me 2 or 3 days of their income so that I can make this for them. Get the light box turned on here. Okay. Cool. Okay, but I want the paper flipped. So just to show you, this is the canvas the right way up. This would not work. I wouldn't be able to see the paper. So what I'm actually going to do is kind of position my sketch where I would want it, and then I'll just very lightly tape it down onto the canvas, and then I'll flip all this over and do the sketch on the back. So when I was asked for a quote about this one, because this was a person who reached out to me because it's me, I had a feeling that they might not kind of know how much this stuff can cost, and that's totally fair, and it can be sort of, I think, surprising how expensive it is. Basically, in order for me to live, the amount that I have to get paid by the hour for the amount of actual work that I'm doing, minimum is $30 an hour. So that's usually how I calculate for a longer project where it'll be a few days. I usually will start that at $30 an hour. But then it's time to guess how long something's going to take. If you're doing kind of the same thing over and over, I'm sure you can get a better idea of how long it's going to take. But that's also part of why I wanted to make this video, was because I wanted to kind of calculate that and figure it out. And it's risky because when I'm giving a quote, let's get this up a little bit. It's risky because when I'm giving a quote, if something ends up taking me way longer than I thought that it would, then that's on me. I can't be like, oh, actually it took me way longer, so it's going to cost more now. Yes, I'm happy with that. Which means in the whole process, that's probably the one area where I do have to overestimate a tiny bit to give a little bit of wiggle room for unknown things happening. But what I guessed was that this would take me 12 hours of work, which for me is about 2 days if I'm working full time that day. Okay, that's perfect. We can see it. So already just that, 12 hours times $30 an hour is already 360 Canadian dollars, which is already a lot of money. And the thing is too, there's some artists that aren't as good as me. There's a lot of artists who are a lot better than me, but all of us, our 12 hours are still 12 hours that we are alive and need to live. And so for a lot of artists, we do kind of get used to working really underpaid when we're first starting to charge for commissions and starting to get going. But I found it really tricky to start making that transition from really underpaying myself to then starting to actually pay myself what I need to survive. And so just the labor I could make a whole video about and talk about forever. But then we have to start thinking about materials and the cost of the supplies. Obviously the canvas is easy enough because it's just the price of the canvas. I think this one was $30. I paid a little bit extra for this canvas because I actually decided to go a little bit bigger than the one that I'd done before, just because I was excited. And then I personally spent a little bit more than my estimate on this one because I wanted it to be a gallery wrapped canvas where it has the nice edges you see here. I assumed they didn't have like a frame in mind, and I wanted to be able to kind of give it to them ready to hang on the wall and look nice. So we had $360, I think, for the work. Materials I'll lump all in together, but my calculation included the canvas, and then paint is so hard to know, but this one I think I added $20 or $30. It sort of averages out the things like the brushes and, just all of the other materials that I have, the varnish. I'm printing, so there's printer paper and printer ink. So that's why with the materials, it's hard to know, but I usually do like a minimum of $30 just because there's so many different things involved. Oh, I didn't realize I didn't have the brightness all the way up. That helps a lot. So that means all in all, the sort of quote that I gave them for this piece was $420. Nice. And that's a lot of money, and I totally get that that's a lot of money. And this is where that conflict comes into play, because every bone in my body says that I should just be like, oh, it's $100. Because that's what I used to do. Like anytime someone would ask me, because I wasn't like necessarily doing this for a living or doing it professionally, it was just always, oh, like $100 or $50 if it was a little bit smaller. But there's this conflict where it's like, when it's someone that you know or you have a connection with, I don't want them to think that I'm overcharging them. I want to give them like a discount or a better deal. But the other side of that is that if somebody knows you and is reaching out to you because they value your work as an artist, then generally they should at the very least be aware of what it actually costs. And if you're giving them a discount, like if you're working for them for less than it costs you to exist during that time, at the very least they should be aware of the sacrifice that you are making, I think. And this depends. It's nuanced. It depends like how early on you are, what your skill level is, if you have another job, which I don't. And when I gave them that number, this was me talking to my friend who was passing along information, but my friend was surprised by that number. But what she said that I appreciated was, she said, that seems like a lot of money, but the way you broke it down of like time plus materials, actually that totally makes sense. I just didn't realize, how much something like that would cost. And that was very nice of my friend. She was not like the insane people on TikTok shitting themselves every time like a small business explains how much things cost. That could be a whole other video, but I'm going to go ahead and finish the sketch and then we'll check back in. So next step, I think I'm going to get the paint out. And I think what I'm going to do is just do kind of a wash, I think you might call it. And we'll see where we're at for time as I'm going. But if I have time, Then I'll probably start going in like with that same color and just layering kind of some details like from the sketch on there. Benji, come here.
Okay, love you. Going to work.
What do you think of an underpainting that is a mix of burnt sienna and how the fuck do you say that?
Dioxazine purple.
Dioxazine purple. Thoughts?
I feel like that's a nice transition from warm to cold colors and like having a nice gradient to have a little underpainting for your leaves and stuff.
I realized I didn't have the mic on you, but whatever. There's other mics happening.
It's okay. Doesn't matter what I think.
You're just off camera. You gotta come a little closer. Now everyone knows you're real.
Yay!
Otherwise, I'm just talking off camera.
Actually, it's just my mouth is real right now.
Yeah.
My mouth is a little.
I kind of like that. It's mysterious.
Yeah. Okay, well, I gotta go. So have fun with your painting.
Thank you.
Love you.
Some other things that can impact that final cost when I'm giving somebody a quote, one would be the timeline. If something needs to be done relatively quickly, that does normally mean that I'll have to work on it for longer hours in the day, like working later into the night. So that can add some cost onto it there. And another thing that takes a really long time, sometimes longer than the original painting itself, is making changes. That's a really complicated thing because obviously I want so badly for somebody to love the painting, and if I did something for someone and they didn't like it, that's never happened to me luckily, but I would be devastated, or I guess never happened where I knew about it. But at the same time, my time is my time, and of course if there was something that I had done wrong, like something that had been asked for that I didn't include, or some practical reason why something would need to change, of course I would want to fix it. I would want to correct my mistake. But as I transition into doing this full time, and especially doing this for a living, I'm more likely to overextend myself and put too much time into something. So that's why I try and figure out kind of how specific of a vision someone has beforehand, adjust my quote according to how much I might need to check in with them. And for a lot of people, they just want me to take care of it and deliver that end product. And that works super well. So this is, where it's a trust the process moment. I did notice that it's really hard to see my sketch at the top there, so I'm going to kind of work around their bodies for the rest of that. This is why I didn't spend a lot of time doing their faces, because I knew that I would need to do it later. I'm getting close to the end of my workday here, so I'm going to keep working on this, and then we'll check in tomorrow and keep going. Okay, hello and good morning. I have absolutely no energy today, but we're just gonna try and get through this. So, okay, it's not the next day, but it's a couple days later, and last time I got some pretty good progress here after I stopped recording. I think I'm really happy with how this part kind of turned out. I kind of did the more warm orangey underpainting, and then kind of going over it with this blue and this white kind of made these beautiful sort of tree shapes here. So today, what time is it right now? It's 12 o'clock. I have an appointment at 8:15 and I have to leave at 7:30. But otherwise, all that I have to do today is work on this painting. Right now, I'm predicting that I will be 90% done the painting by the end of today. So we'll see. What do you think, Tito? She's not in a chatty mood today. That's okay. I said earlier that nobody's ever not liked something that I've been commissioned to do for them. I guess that's actually not true. I just remembered this story. Years ago, I was a teenager at the time. I might have still been in high school or first couple years of university. One of my friends asked me to do a commission for them to give as a gift to somebody else that I did not know at all. I think it was their coworker. I think this was for like a Secret Santa situation, or I don't remember, but it was something like that. And I was so excited. I didn't get a lot of opportunities to do this kind of stuff, and I love doing things for other people. So I just did it for free for my friend, or I think they bought me a coffee or something. Nothing serious involved here. And I spent so much time working on this portrait. And I wasn't that good at like getting people's likenesses at the time. I think I'm still not that good at it now, but I put a lot of effort in. But then I don't know what happened, or if there was a miscommunication or a misunderstanding, or I'm not sure if I was in the wrong, like maybe I should have, but I don't know what went wrong, if there was a misunderstanding or a miscommunication, or I don't think that what happened here was normal. The person who received the portrait, I guess, didn't like it. Or less that they didn't like it, but they felt like there was a lot of things wrong with it. And what they did was they texted my friend and asked for a bunch of changes to the free portrait that I had done. I guess they felt like it didn't look enough like them, which is probably fair. It probably didn't. There was colors of things that they felt like wasn't quite right, like of their clothing. And that's what I was talking about earlier. It wasn't like there was something that I had done wrong, or if someone was like, I have a tattoo there that's really meaningful to me, actually, could you put that there? Like, that kind of thing I would do, no problem. But there was nothing like that here. It was just more like subjective changes that they wanted to make. And again, I had done this for free, and I was like a teenager. I was a kid. So it just put all of us in a really uncomfortable situation. And I ended up just telling my friend that I couldn't do it. But I was so sad about it. I had really put a lot of work in, and it was just did not do much for my confidence. So if you find yourself needing to ask for changes from an artist, remember that they're a person, and this is probably their life's passion, and artists can be sensitive. But at the same time, if there's something that's like an obstacle from you enjoying this work of art, something that would prevent you from wanting to hang it up, or something that makes you sad to look at it, these types of things the artist probably wants to know. I would want to know. And you can always ask. When it comes to a change that's like a little bit more subjective, like wanting a big part of the painting to be redone, or changing somebody's face, or something that you didn't realize that you wanted, that's where if you're comfortable paying the artist to make those changes, I think acknowledging that could be really good, because that's what I'm trying to encourage here, is that we're all just people that are spending our time. Kind of acknowledging that and offering to pay for that time would make a huge difference. If someone offered that to me and I did it and it didn't end up taking me that long, or if I was already kind of under my anticipated timeline for the project, then I would tell them, and I would tell them not to pay me for that time. Because I just want people to have something that they're happy with. Okay, well, I think we made some pretty good progress here. I've been painting for about an hour. So what I did was I filled in like the sides and the bottom there, at least good enough for right now, and kind of getting the darks in place, like in the corners there, and then kind of moving into a more like faded light tone. I started adding in the foliage and doing some like grass here. In my original sketch, like this line was pretty straight across, and so I'm not quite sure what I'll do. I think I kind of want all of this to be grass, and then this to be grass, and then sort of in front of them is going to be shorter grass. And then I went ahead and I took kind of similar colors that I was using for the sky, and I filled in her dress, got rid of that like streaky kind of brush strokes that I had there. With the same kind of color I went in with his shirt, and I think this is going to look really good because I obviously want the two of them to really stand out, but also to still have that good like unity of it being a whole image here. So then I made the color a little bit transparent, and I just kind of took it and put a little bit of it into the ground here to kind of like bring everything all together, and I think I'm pretty happy with how it's going so far. While I do this next part, I want to tell you about some of the first commissions that I ever did. Spoiler alert, they were in Roblox. So yeah, the first commissions that I ever started doing was when I was like probably between like 8 and 10 years old. I started making custom shirts for people in Roblox. And I think the way it worked at the time was like you had to have a subscription to like upload custom shirts or something like that. And I had gotten given that membership for Christmas. I think that's how it worked. And you know, I had Photoshop elements or whatever on my computer, so I started offering for people that I would design them a custom shirt and then upload it, and then the way that they would like pay me is that they would buy it like from my shop or something. This was a long time ago, early days of Roblox. And I remember that sometimes people would reach out to me and want something, and they would be like describing the design, and I would just be like, I have absolutely no idea what this person is talking about. And I remember there was one conversation where I was going back and forth with this guy so many times, and I swear to God, he must have been trolling me, because I was like, what he is describing makes no sense. I don't know. And yeah, so this kind of experience of trying to do this negotiation and like describe also with words a design is also very challenging. And also I was 10 years old. And the other thing that would happen sometimes is I would make somebody something and then they just wouldn't buy it, which, you know, it's unfortunate, but I guess that's what happens sometimes. I really don't think that what I was doing was very good. So I don't necessarily blame them for not buying it. But it would kind of suck when I put work into something and then it just kind of like nothing came of it. And that's kind of why with this stuff, like, I do want to be talking about the fact that the very nature of like needing to earn money from doing this to survive can really like suffocate and take so much life out of the joy of creating art and the whole like reason that we started doing this stuff in the first place. And I think that part of this comes from the fact that, you know, in spending our money, we're kind of used to doing it in this very certain way. Like we're used to buying things from Amazon or, you know, going into stores and looking at these different brands. And there's a lot of obsession with like, okay, am I getting a good value for my money? Is this good quality? You know, what is this stuff made out of? And where is it made? It's basically the person with the money kind of has this power, and as the consumer it kind of becomes your job, with the very, very tiny amount of power that you have in having a small amount of disposable income, you kind of have to approach with a lot of distrust from these companies that are trying to profit from you. And so it totally makes sense to have your guard up, because, you know, we kind of make it this this judgment onto somebody's character. Like if you buy something that doesn't serve you right, or you got ripped off, or it feels like such a failure as a person doing your due diligence with your money. And then at the same time, we're so used to this happening all the time. It is like fucking impossible to truly be buying things ethically in this world. And so the problem comes in when we're trying to kind of do art as a business. Usually the artist, to some extent has to kind of adopt this business mentality, you know, thinking about the market and where you can fit in, thinking about sales and advertising and competing with other artists, having a booth at a fair that stands out, where you can, you know, get your prints sourced to have the largest profit margin for yourself as an artist. We're forced into this position to like do these things to survive if we want this to be a career. I really struggle with this, and this is something that for the most part I just can't even bring myself to like do, and I'm privileged to be able to do that to a certain extent, but it's also like I could probably work doing more art if I did more of these things to be a good business. You know, it's complicated. Moving your attention to the painting over here, I think I made really good progress. I struggled a lot with mixing the skin tone here. That was a real challenge, but I think I got it to a place that I'm pretty happy with. It's actually cool. I'm looking right now like at the preview screen, and it's mirrored. And if you didn't know, that's a really helpful thing when you're making art, is to kind of see the flipped image of it. Kind of lets you look on the picture with fresh eyes. So it's kind of cool. As I've been working, I can like look over there, see how it's looking in the mirror image, and then look over here and see it this way. So yeah, I am not sure what I'm going to be working on next. I am thinking about adding more to the foliage here and kind of like sort of get the area all around the couple kind of ready to go. Started working on the transparency here a little bit on the dress, kind of over the skin and the veil here. I think that that's looking pretty good. Maggie's breathing on the camera, so she might. Do you want to come here, Nick? There's my girl. Boop. Yeah, I'm not sure what I'm gonna do next. I'm thinking about maybe going in here to kind of add some clarity to the foliage and start bringing that in, and then maybe kind of freshening up some of the dark spots to kind of get that outline going. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take a little break and we'll keep going. You've been hearing a lot of my bad business management stuff throughout this video, so it's probably not a surprise to hear that that's how I kind of approach things. The thing is, my art is important to me, and I really, truly never imagined that I would be able to work as an artist, partially because this was how I was taught that you had to approach it to be successful. And I just couldn't imagine myself doing that in a way that didn't end with me hating making art, which is something a lot of artists struggle with. So yeah, I think about these things a lot, and I'm really trying to carve my own path and figure out really how I want to do things to be true to myself. And I think that that gets reflected in the final work too. It makes me feel like what I'm making has more meaning to me and more substance when I take this approach and really think critically, not just about the work that I'm doing itself, but also how I'm doing it, how I'm approaching it, and how I'm making my money from it. This was the part that I was so excited to finally get started on. I'm doing the greenery. I'm doing the grass, the shrubs, the leaves, the flowers. It's happening. It's kind of funny because people are my favorite thing to draw, but I feel like when I'm painting, especially when it's nature and when it's not something that you're trying to like copy super precisely, it's not like a portrait where you're trying to get the likeness exactly right. It really gives you a lot more flexibility to just have fun, experiment with different types of brush strokes, see what shapes get made. Bob Ross talks about having happy accidents or something like that. Nature things don't fall super cleanly. They clump together in weird sections. I don't know. I always have so much fun doing this kind of like wild grass and brush and flowers and leaves. It's so much fun. I had been trying to chip away at the bouquet by adding colors just that I happened to be mixing as I was going, but I found that it just was not working, so here I decided to really lock in and do the whole thing at once. I made it a lot more leafy and made it a little bit bigger and added some more of those shapes coming out because I feel like that makes it fit a lot better in the whole environment that I have going on here with the grass. But I did keep it in this shade of green that's a little bit different than everything else because I think that helps it stand out, helps the couple stand out more, ties into eventually the color of the tie there is going to be that same sort of aqua color, ties it into the colors of the sky. So I sketched out the placement of the different flowers with some paint and then just started layering on using a little bit of fluid medium mixed in with the paint to add transparency until it was done. And I'm really happy with it. Okay, checking back in here. It's 6:30 and I'm feeling pretty tapped out. My back's starting to hurt, so I think this is going to be where I leave it for today. But I think, what did I say? I would be 90% done by the end of the day. I think that that's about right. I'm really happy with how it's looking. Honestly, I think all that's really left to do tomorrow is I'm going to go into their faces and really kind of narrow in there. I'm going to do his tie, add some more grass to the bottom down here, and I'll probably have to do the bottom a little bit more. I think tomorrow I'll be able to get it done. Welcome back. Here's the game plan for today. We're going to get this done. So yesterday I went in and added some pinks here, which I don't regret because I do think it kind of like unified the image. But I think today I'm going to go back over and make it a little bit more green because this fuzziness in the background is meant to be like trees. So I think I'm going to make them a little bit more green and kind of have a little bit more of that atmospheric perspective going on. Maybe add some like detail in the branches so that you can really see that it's trees. Also, I think what I'm going to do then, once I've done that part in the background, I think I'm going to actually extend this and kind of have it come out here a little bit because I feel like right now I kind of have this line that's leading like boom kind of into his elbow with like the shape of this and then the down here the shape of that. It kind of like draws the attention here, whereas I want the attention more drawn to like this whole area. So I think that what I can do is just, if I have the tree here, kind of extend that way and have some branches up here, then it kind of creates this little more C shape that kind of like frames the couple in it. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm also going to go in and actually do their faces. I think what I have right now is starting to look pretty good, but I really want to get in there and add the details and try and get the likeness at least a little bit closer. I also think that her face is way too small compared to his face. So I don't know how I'm going to fix that, but I'll find a way. So I might have to scoot kind of her hairline back, and then it'll make her face look a little bit bigger. And then on his, I'll just kind of like maybe bring it in a little bit more here. I don't know. And yeah, I mean, the branches here are not meant to be, right now they're kind of in the same color as the leaves. These are meant to be like darker branches. So I think once I have the tree kind of going here and then the branches are darker, that'll kind of like tie in more of the darks down here. So that's the plan for today. I'm gonna paint for as long as I can and see if I can get it done. So, as an artist, how do I want people to approach me about a commission? That's a good question. I think that for one, just having an idea of kind of what you want and the role that you want the artist to play in that is a good place to start. Like I talked about at the beginning, like, do you have a specific vision that you're kind of looking for somebody to fulfill? Is it more that you just kind of want something, like you have some money to put towards art, but you're more comfortable with the artist kind of taking on more of those creative decisions? You know, these are questions that will vary so much just based on the commission itself. But one thing that I will say is I've found that people, I think especially people who maybe aren't artists or just don't approach things, I guess, the same way that I do, people tend to think that they need to be a lot more specific than they actually need to be, at least for me. Like, I like to say to people, you know, you can just give me a budget and a size, and I will give my whole heart and soul into making something for you that I think is cool. So for things like, you know, a color scheme or a composition or even a subject, like even what the painting is of, if these are things that don't matter to you, like you don't have to approach with that information ready, I am totally more than happy to fill in any of the gaps that need to be filled to make the piece. Benji's here. Benji, you're an artist. When someone says that they want a commission from you, what details would you need?
I would need to know like the size of what they need, general color scheme, and what's the subject they want me to paint. And normally I think that's about it. If the person has additional like reference images, like that's helpful. But also I like it when it's I have some creative freedom. Also, that's kind of what I like if I ever commission another artist, that I kind of want them to have some freedom to do it. And normally when you commission an artist is because you already like what they do. So yeah.
Well, there you go. I agree. Any final words?
Peace on earth and beyond.
That's so beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, that was the other point that I was going to make, actually, is if you have a vision, but it's like a little bit fuzzy, you're not exactly sure. Like Benji was saying, a really good thing that you can do is just send even 1 or 2 pictures of other pieces of art that you like. And you can say, you know, oh, I really love the colors of this one, but I really prefer like the composition of this one. I don't know, like if you're wanting a portrait of your cat, right? You could send a picture of a landscape painting and just say, oh, I really like the vibe of this, the color palette of this, you know, the mood in this one is really cool. And it's, you know, I'm not going to paint you a landscape, you know, I'll paint your cat, but with that mood. That's part of the fun, I guess. If you don't necessarily know the words to express what you're wanting, but just kind of see something and you're like, oh, I want something like that, you know, that's a good thing that you can provide. Another thing that I haven't got the chance to do too often, but that I love doing, is if it's something for somebody's home and they just have like kind of a spot on the wall where they want to put something. I do really love making something that I think would fit really well in that spot. Basically, if you love art and you love artists and you found yourself in a position where you have a little bit of money that you could put towards some art, I can't even begin to express like how beautiful of an opportunity that it is to kind of get that safety and security that comes from knowing that the person who has the money is putting that trust in you as an artist. Like, the reason that I can do this, the reason why I'm like good enough that somebody might want to hire me, is because I love to do it, not because it's profitable. And so being able to do what I love to do, but know that the time that I'm putting into doing it isn't coming at the cost of my ability to just like live and pay my bills, that is such a wonderful, wonderful thing. And to just really get to focus on like pouring my love and my heart and soul into something that could be meaningful to somebody, or something that they might get to look at every day, like I find that so cool. So it really is just unfortunate that that money has to be involved. But yeah, if you find yourself in that position, hopefully I've given you some things to think about if you're ever approaching an artist. With that said, I'm gonna really lock in here, and I think we're gonna check back in when I'm done. That's crazy. Okay guys, are you ready to see the final product? You know what I did after my last time painting? I just put it away where I couldn't see it for a couple of weeks. So I'm going to be looking at it myself with fresh eyes. I think that's always good. And here we go. Ready? Dun, 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 dun. Yay! Here it is. I'm really happy with this. I think this is one of the better paintings that I've done, to be honest. I mean, it's definitely one of the more complicated with like the environment, which is kind of funny because I feel like digitally I wouldn't find this that complicated, but in a painting I've never really done anything like this before. I think I did a good job of making the couple stand out, but kind of the environment feels very true to sort of the pictures that I saw of their day, but I made it more like moody and kind of like warm toned. And I think I got their likenesses kind of good in that range of like, they'll be able to tell that it's a painting of them. Anyone who knows them will know it's a painting of them, but not like super hyper realistic, you know. And you're probably wondering what the final verdict was for how long this took to paint. I don't have a really satisfying answer because of the fact that I was making a video. I know that everything took a lot longer. I was recording for about 12 hours of painting total, but I worked for a few hours after I finished recording. But if we do adjust for the fact that I was making a video, I do think my 12 hours was about right. Overall, this was just such an incredibly fun project to work on. I hope that you guys enjoyed hearing our little chat about commissions and my thoughts on them. And let me know if you want more videos like this in the future. Thanks.